Hey guys, John Yard here, and today we're going to be talking about a question that I think is really interesting, and it's one that I knew there was a difference between these two things, but I didn't know exactly what it was until really recently. So I thought I'd make a video about it, and I'm going to share that here. So the question is, what is the difference between a campfire and a bonfire? Okay, and this is a really interesting one because these two terms are often used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. Okay, so the two main differences between a campfire and a bonfire are their function and so like their purpose and the size of the fire. Okay, and so first of all, the function, let's talk about that. So on the one hand, we have campfires, and they kind of have shared functions of like cooking and heating if you're at a campsite or on a backpacking trip maybe, or just kind of camping at a local campsite or in the backyard, that type of thing. And they also do, you can use them for, it does have like sort of an ambient entertainment value to it, but not in the same way as a bonfire. So on the other hand, a bonfire, that's primarily used for like a celebration or event. People might have a bonfire get together where they have people over. So it's more kind of focused around the entertainment value and the event of having a bonfire. And it's also interesting to note, something I learned is that the term bonfire, it actually comes from two words, which are bone and fire. And the reason it comes from these two things is that it actually originated from a festival that was held by the Celts many years ago, where they would have these big fires made of where they would burn bones. And so that's kind of the essence of what a bonfire is for. It's for like a festival or a celebration, something of that nature. Going on to size then, our second sort of distinction between the two, a bonfire is actually much larger as well. So this one might be a little bit more obvious, something that people already have an idea about. But for a bonfire, you're usually not going to put it in like a fire circle or contain it like that. Instead, you're going to find like an open area where you can kind of clear some ground and make sure you're like removing brush and things that could be a fire hazard, and placing around like or kind of far away from buildings and trees that could catch on fire. So a bonfire is much larger. A campfire is going to be contained in like a fire circle or a fire pit, something like that most of the time. And if you're like in the back country and there's not a fire pit around, you might like dig one or arrange one with some stones or a trowel. And so that's kind of the size difference between the two. I think that it's also interesting to kind of think about building it, like how do you build a campfire versus building a bonfire? And there's really a lot of similarity. You do have to keep in mind that difference in where you're starting it. So campfire goes in a fire pit, and a bonfire needs a larger piece of land area. But for actually like starting the fire, you can basically do it in the same way. Like you're gonna use your teepee or your lean-to log cabin method, like your standard fire starting methods. And then with a bonfire, you're simply going to add more and more fuel wood than you would with a campfire to make it bigger and bigger, right? And as another note on fire starting, if you're interested in learning how, like kind of my favorite method for starting a campfire and just kind of a basic way to get one going consistently, I have another video about that I'll link to in the description. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video about the distinction between a campfire and a bonfire, and I'll see you back here on the channel next time. See you guys.